The scorching summer sun beat down on Promise Creek, Colorado, as Genevieve Nichols clutched her empty stomach and tried to ignore the dizziness that threatened to overtake her. The year was 1876, and the West had proven far less promising than the pamphlets had claimed when she'd sold everything to journey from Boston after her parents' passing. Genevieve stumbled between the bustling market stalls, the colorful produce and fresh bread taunting her with their abundance she couldn't afford. 3 weeks without proper work had depleted her meager savings. The boarding house had given her until tomorrow to pay her dues or find herself on the street. "Are you all right, miss?" a shopkeeper called, noticing her pallor. "Quite well, thank you," Genevieve responded automatically, the proper Boston upbringing still directing her responses even as her vision began to tunnel. The market square swirled around her like a kaleidoscope, bright colors and loud voices blending together. She reached for a post to steady herself, missing it entirely as her knees buckled. The last thing she heard was the concerned shouts of strangers before darkness claimed her. When consciousness returned, it arrived with the steady rhythm of hoofbeats and the sensation of strong arms holding her securely. Genevieve's eyes fluttered open to find herself cradled against a broad chest, the scent of leather, horses, and sun-baked skin filling her senses. "There you are," a deep voice rumbled above her. "I was beginning to worry." Genevieve looked up into the face of a man she'd never seen before, tanned skin weathered by the elements, keen hazel eyes studying her with concern, and a strong jawline shadowed with several days' growth of beard. His hat shaded both of them from the punishing sun. "Who?" her voice cracked with dryness. "Who are you? Where are you taking me?" "Name's August Keller," he replied, adjusting his hold to keep her secure as his horse navigated the rutted road leading out of town. "And I'm taking you to my ranch." "You fainted dead away in the market square, miss. Doc Miller isn't in town today and the hotel wanted payment up front." Panic surged through Genevieve. "I haven't any money to pay you, sir. Please just leave me at the boarding house on Pine Street." August's expression hardened slightly. "The lady who runs that place was in the market. Said you were behind on payments and couldn't stay another night without settling your account." Humiliation burned through Genevieve hotter than the summer sun. Her fingers clutched weakly at his shirt. "Please, Mr. Keller, I cannot accept charity." "If you would just set me down, It's not charity, miss. It's common decency," he interrupted firmly. "My ranch is just over that ridge. You'll have a meal and rest, and we'll figure things out from there." Too weak to argue further, Genevieve fell silent as they crested the hill, revealing a modest but well-maintained ranch sprawling across the valley below. A 2-story house painted white with blue trim stood proudly among several outbuildings, a corral with horses, and fields of what looked like hay and vegetables stretching into the distance. "Welcome to Keller Ranch," August said, a note of pride in his voice. "It's not much, but it's home." Not much. To Genevieve's eyes, it was a kingdom compared to the cramped room she'd been renting in town. As they approached the house, a woman emerged onto the porch, her silver-streaked dark hair pulled back in a practical bun. Her weathered face registered surprise at the sight of Genevieve in August's arms. "August, what in heaven's name?" "Found her collapsed in town, Mrs. Rivera," August explained as he dismounted with surprising grace, somehow managing to keep Genevieve secure in his arms. "She needs food and rest." Mrs. Rivera's expression softened immediately. "Bring her inside, quickly. I just took bread from the oven." The house was cool compared to the summer heat outside, and Genevieve found herself placed gently on a comfortable sofa in a tidy parlor. Mrs. Rivera disappeared and returned moments later with a glass of water which Genevieve accepted gratefully. "Small sips," the older woman instructed. "I'm Alina Rivera, the housekeeper here, and you are Genevieve Nichols," she replied between careful sips. "I apologize for the trouble." August hovered nearby, his tall frame somehow making the spacious room feel smaller. "No trouble. Mrs. Rivera, could you prepare something for Miss Nichols to eat? Something light to start." Already doing so, Elena assured him before disappearing again. Left alone with her rescuer, Genevieve felt self-conscious about her disheveled appearance and the circumstances of their meeting. August seemed equally unsure, shifting his weight before finally removing his hat and hanging it on a peg by the door. "How long have you been without food, Miss Nichols?" he asked directly. Genevieve dropped her gaze to her lap. "I've had some food, just not enough, I suppose. Work has been difficult to find." "What sort of work do you do?" "In Boston, I was a teacher," she explained. "But Promise Creek already has one schoolteacher, and she's quite established. I've been taking in mending and laundry, but it's hardly enough to live on." August nodded thoughtfully, running a hand through his light brown hair, slightly damp with sweat from the ride. "Teachers are valuable out here. Might not be in town, but there are families scattered throughout the territory who'd give anything for someone to educate their children." Before Genevieve could respond, Elena returned with a tray bearing a bowl of broth, bread still warm from the oven, and a small dish of butter. "Start with the broth," Elena instructed. "If that stays down, then try some bread. Too much too fast will make you sick after going hungry." Genevieve nodded, deeply embarrassed yet grateful. The rich aroma of the chicken broth made her stomach clench painfully. She took a spoonful, closing her eyes as the warm liquid soothed her parched throat. "I'll leave you to eat in peace," August said, backing toward the door. "Mrs. Rivera will show you to a room where you can rest afterward. We can talk more when you're feeling stronger." "Mr. Keller," Genevieve called before he could leave. "I don't know how to thank you." His expression softened. "No need for thanks. Anyone would have done the same." But Genevieve knew that wasn't true. In her 3 weeks in Promise Creek, she'd learned that kindness wasn't necessarily the currency of the West. Survival was. After she'd eaten as much as her shrunken stomach could manage, Elena showed her to a tidy bedroom upstairs. Fresh linens on the bed, a washstand with clean water, and a simple dresser were the only furnishings, but to Genevieve it seemed like luxury. "There's a nightgown in the drawer," Elena told her. "It might be a bit large, but it's clean. Rest now. Everything looks better after sleep." Alone, Genevieve washed her face and hands, changed into the offered nightgown, and slipped between the cool sheets. Despite the strangeness of her surroundings and the uncertainty of her situation, exhaustion claimed her almost immediately. When she woke, sunlight was streaming through the curtains at a different angle. She'd slept through the remainder of the day and into the next morning. For a moment, panic seized her. She'd lost a whole day, and her belongings were still at the boarding house. A soft knock at the door interrupted her rising anxiety. "Miss Nichols, are you awake?" Elena's voice called. "Yes, please come in," Genevieve responded, sitting up in bed. Elena entered carrying a tray with a steaming cup and a plate of eggs and more of the delicious bread from the day before. "How are you feeling this morning?" "Much better, thank you," Genevieve replied honestly. "Though I'm concerned about my belongings at the boarding house." "No need to worry," Elena assured her. "August rode back to town yesterday evening and settled your account. Your trunk and things are downstairs." Genevieve's heart sank. Now she was even further indebted to this stranger. "He shouldn't have done that. I have no way to repay him." Elena placed the tray across Genevieve's lap. "August doesn't do things expecting repayment. Eat now, and when you're ready, there are clean clothes on the chair. They belonged to August's sister when she visited last summer. They should fit well enough until your own things can be laundered." After breakfast, Genevieve dressed in the borrowed clothes, a simple blue cotton dress that was indeed a good fit, and made her way downstairs. She found August in what appeared to be a study, bent over account books. He looked up when she entered, his expression brightening. "Miss Nichols, you're looking much improved." "Thanks to your kindness," she acknowledged. "Mr. Keller, I understand you retrieved my things from town. While I appreciate the gesture, I cannot accept such charity without some arrangement to repay you." August leaned back in his chair, studying her with those intent hazel eyes. "I've been thinking about that. My ranch is doing well enough, but I could use help with various matters correspondence, accounts, perhaps some instruction for my foreman's children. Would you consider a position here? Room, board, and a modest salary. Genevieve's heart raced at the unexpected offer. You need a teacher. Here, my foreman, Miguel Rivera, Mrs. Rivera's son, has 3 children who need proper schooling. There are 4 other families working this ranch with children of their own. That's 8 children who currently get no formal education because the town school is too far for daily travel. I see, Genevieve said thoughtfully. It wasn't what she'd expected when she came west, but it was an opportunity. And the correspondence. I'm no hand with letters, August admitted with a self-deprecating smile. Business matters require more writing than I have time or talent for. Mrs. Rivera mentioned you were educated and your speech confirms it. Genevieve considered the offer carefully. It would mean living here away from town among strangers. Yet the alternative was returning to Promise Creek with no prospects and mounting debts. I accept, she decided, though I would like to establish clear terms of employment. August nodded approvingly. I'd expect nothing less. Shall we discuss those terms now? Over the next hour, they outlined her responsibilities and compensation. Genevieve would teach the ranch children each morning, handle correspondence and bookkeeping in the afternoons, and have her evenings and Sundays to herself. In return, she would receive room, board, and a modest but fair monthly salary. When would you like me to begin? She asked as they concluded their negotiations. Is tomorrow too soon? I can show you around the property today so you can get your bearings. The tour revealed a ranch larger than Genevieve had initially thought. In addition to the main house, there were bunkhouses for the unmarried ranch hands, small cabins for families, a barn, stables, corrals, and various outbuildings. The families lived scattered across the property, each with their own small piece of land where they grew kitchen gardens. The Riveras have been with me since I started, August explained as they walked. Miguel was my first hire. His wife, Lucia, and their children live in the largest cabin just beyond that stand of cottonwoods. How long have you had the ranch? Genevieve asked, genuinely curious about this man who had rescued her. 7 years now. Came out from Pennsylvania in '69 with nothing but determination and my father's pocket watch. There was pride in his voice but no boastfulness. Built it all from the ground up. It's impressive, Genevieve said sincerely. You've accomplished a great deal. August glanced at her, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth. What brought you west, Miss Nichols? If you don't mind my asking. Genevieve hesitated, then decided honesty was best. My parents died last winter influenza. After settling their affairs, there was little left. I'd read about opportunities in the West, teaching positions that offered independence. But reality didn't match the advertisements, August finished for her. No, she admitted. Promise Creek already had an established teacher and other positions for women are limited. August nodded thoughtfully. The West can be harsh, especially for those who come unprepared, but there's opportunity here for those willing to adapt. As they returned to the house, Genevieve felt a curious mixture of apprehension and hope. Perhaps this unexpected turn of events was the adaptation she needed. The following weeks established a routine that Genevieve found surprisingly satisfying. The ranch children ranging in age from 5 to 13 were eager students, making her morning teaching sessions rewarding despite the challenges of their varied educational backgrounds. The afternoons spent organizing August's correspondence and accounts provided a different kind of satisfaction, bringing order to what had been rather chaotic record-keeping. She saw August daily, usually at breakfast and dinner, which were taken together with Alina in the main house's dining room. Sometimes he joined them for the midday meal as well, though he was often out on the property during that time. Their conversations gradually evolved from polite exchanges to genuine discussions about books, current events from the newspapers that arrived weekly, and the running of the ranch. One evening in late July, about a month after her arrival, Genevieve was sitting on the front porch enjoying the cooler air after a particularly hot day when August joined her, carrying 2 glasses of lemonade. "Thought you might appreciate this," he said, offering her one. "Thank you." She accepted gratefully, the tart sweetness refreshing after the day's heat. August settled into the chair beside her, stretching his long legs out before him. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, watching the sunset paint the western sky in vibrant oranges and pinks. "The children are making remarkable progress," Genevieve commented eventually. "Even young Thomas, who was so resistant at first," August smiled. "Miguel says Thomas talks of nothing but your lessons at home now. You've won him over." "Children usually come around if you show genuine interest in them," she replied. "Though I must admit, I've never taught such a diverse group before. In Boston, classes were separated by age and ability." "You've adapted well," August observed, his gaze still on the horizon. "To teaching here." "To life on the ranch," Genevieve considered this. "I suppose I have. It's different from what I expected when I came west, but not in an unpleasant way." "And what did you expect?" he asked, turning to look at her directly, the fading sunlight caught in his eyes, turning them a warm amber. Genevieve found herself momentarily distracted by the observation before gathering her thoughts. "A position in a proper town school, I suppose. A small house of my own eventually. Independence." And now, Genevieve sipped her lemonade, considering her answer carefully. "Now I find myself appreciating things I hadn't considered before. The community here, for one. Everyone works together, depends on each other. It's different from Boston, where neighbors might live side by side for years without truly knowing one another." August nodded. "That's what drew me to ranching rather than some other venture. It's not just raising cattle or growing crops, it's building something larger than yourself, something that supports others." "It's admirable," Genevieve said sincerely. "High praise from a Boston school teacher," he teased gently, and Genevieve found herself laughing. Perhaps this Boston schoolteacher had a few things to learn herself, she admitted. As July melted into August, Genevieve found herself increasingly aware of August Keller not just as her employer, but as a man. She noticed the way the ranch hands respected him without fear, how the children looked up to him with admiration, how he worked alongside his men rather than merely directing them. And she noticed more personal things too. The rare but wonderful sound of his laugh, the thoughtful furrow of his brow when he was concentrating, the gentleness of his hands despite their strength and calluses. These observations troubled her, for developing feelings for her employer could only lead to complications. She resolved to maintain professional boundaries, reminding herself that her position here was temporarily a stepping stone to the independence she had sought by coming west. Yet circumstances seemed determined to challenge her resolve. A late summer storm caught them both while they were reviewing the accounts in his study one afternoon. The sudden downpour was too heavy to risk the dash to the schoolroom where she'd left her shawl, leaving them confined together as thunder rumbled overhead. "Looks like we're trapped for the moment," August observed, moving to light an additional lamp as the sky darkened with storm clouds. "Would you care for some tea while we wait it out?" "That would be lovely, thank you." While August was out of the room, Genevieve tried to compose herself. There was no reason for her heart to beat faster simply because they were alone together. It had happened countless times before during their work sessions. Yet something felt different today, a tension in the air that matched the electricity of the storm outside. August returned with a tea tray that he must have prepared himself, as Alina had gone to town that morning and wasn't expected back until evening. "I'm afraid I'm not as skilled at this as Mrs. Rivera," he apologized as he poured the tea somewhat clumsily. "It's perfect," Genevieve assured him, accepting the cup. "Thank you." The storm intensified, rain lashing against the windows and thunder cracking directly overhead. Despite the weather's violence, Genevieve found herself enjoying the coziness of the study, with its bookshelves, comfortable chairs, and the companionable presence of August across from her. "I never asked," he said suddenly. "Why teaching? What drew you to it?" The question surprised her, but Genevieve answered thoughtfully. "I've always loved learning, and sharing knowledge seemed a natural extension of that. There's something remarkable about watching someone grasp a new concept, seeing that moment of understanding dawn in their eyes." August nodded. "I've noticed that with you and the children, your whole face lights up when they understand something you've been explaining." Genevieve felt a blush warm her cheeks at the observation. "And you, what led you to ranching?" "Freedom," he replied without hesitation. "My father worked in a factory in Philadelphia, same building, same tasks, day after day for 30 years. I saw how it wore him down, body and spirit. I wanted open skies and work that changed with the seasons." "You found it," Genevieve said, gesturing to the window where, despite the storm, the vastness of the ranch was evident. "I did," he agreed. "Though I've found that freedom comes with its own responsibilities. These people depend on me, on the decisions I make, the work I do." "Is it very difficult? The responsibility, I mean." August considered this, turning his teacup in his hands. "It can be, but it's also rewarding in a way I never expected. There's purpose in it." Their conversation drifted to other topics as the storm gradually abated. By the time the rain had slowed to a gentle patter, they had covered everything from favorite books to childhood memories, laughing together with an ease that belied their relatively short acquaintance. When Genevieve finally returned to her room that evening, she found herself replaying their conversation, dwelling on the moments when his eyes had held hers a beat longer than necessary, or when their hands had accidentally touched as he refilled her teacup. It was becoming increasingly difficult to deny that her feelings for August Keller had developed beyond what was appropriate for an employee. The following Sunday, Genevieve declined the invitation to join the ranch families at their weekly gathering, claiming a headache. In truth, she needed time alone to think, to sort through her conflicting emotions. She spent the afternoon walking the property, eventually finding herself near a small creek that ran along the eastern boundary of the ranch. The sound of approaching hoofbeats interrupted her contemplation. Looking up, she saw August riding toward her, his expression concerned. "Miss Nichols," he called as he drew closer. "Are you feeling better?" "Yes, thank you," she replied, somewhat flustered by his appearance. "The fresh air has helped considerably." August dismounted, leading his horse to the creek to drink. "I noticed your absence at the gathering. The children missed their teacher." "I'll make it up to them tomorrow," she promised, unable to meet his eyes. August studied her for a moment. "Is everything all right, Miss Nichols?" "You've seemed distracted lately." Genevieve hesitated. How could she explain that her distraction was due to him, that she found herself thinking of him at the most inappropriate moments, wondering what it might be like if their relationship were different? "I'm perfectly well," she assured him instead. "Perhaps just a bit homesick." It wasn't entirely a lie. She did miss certain aspects of her life in Boston, the libraries, the concerts, the familiarity of the city she'd grown up in. But those pangs of nostalgia were minor compared to the turmoil of her growing feelings for August. "Homesickness is natural," he said gently. "The West can be a lonely place, especially for someone used to city life." "It's not so much loneliness," Genevieve clarified. "Everyone here has been welcoming. It's more uncertainty about my future, I suppose." August frowned slightly. "Are you unhappy with your position here?" "No, not at all," she hastened to assure him. "The work is rewarding and I've grown quite fond of the children. It's just that I came west seeking independence and instead, you're dependent on an employer once again," August finished for her, understanding dawning in his eyes. Genevieve nodded, relieved that he seemed to comprehend at least part of her conflict. "What would independence look like for you, Genevieve?" he asked softly, using her given name for the first time. The unexpected intimacy of it sent a shiver through her that had nothing to do with the light breeze rustling the cottonwood leaves above them. "I'm not entirely sure anymore," she admitted. "When I left Boston, I thought it meant supporting myself, answering to no one, but perhaps true independence isn't about being alone. Perhaps it's about having choices." August took a step closer, his voice low and earnest. "You always have choices, Genevieve, including the choice to stay here, or to go." There was something in his tone, a vulnerability she'd never heard before that made her finally meet his gaze. What she saw there took her breath away. Hope, uncertainty, and something deeper that mirrored her own confused emotions. "August," she began, then faltered, unsure what she wanted to say. He reached out slowly, giving her every opportunity to move away, and gently tucked a strand of hair behind her ear that had escaped her usually tidy bun. The light touch sent warmth cascading through her. "I brought you to my home that day because you needed help," he said quietly. "But I find myself hoping you might stay for entirely different reasons now." Genevieve's heart thundered in her chest. "What reasons?" August took a deep breath, as if gathering courage. "Because in these past months, you've become essential to this place, not just for your teaching or your help with the accounts, but for the way you've brought light and learning and laughter. Because I find myself looking forward to our conversations more than anything else in my day. Because—" He paused, his gaze intensely focused on her face. "Because I believe I'm falling in love with you, Genevieve Nichols." The confession hung in the air between them, as momentous as the storm that had trapped them in his study days before. Genevieve felt dizzy with the rush of emotions his words evoked: joy, fear, hope, all tangled together. "August, she began, then stopped, forcing herself to think clearly despite the clamor of her heart. "I have feelings for you too, feelings that have grown stronger each day. But I'm your employee. The power between us is unequal," understanding dawned in his eyes. "That's why you've been pulling away. You're concerned about your position." "Yes," she admitted. "What would people think? What would happen if things didn't work between us?" August considered this seriously. "Your concerns are valid. I wouldn't want you to feel trapped or obligated in any way." He thought for a moment. "What if we altered our arrangement? The school could become a proper institution for the ranch, with you as its head rather than my employee. You could have your independence while still being here." The solution was unexpected but thoughtful, so characteristic of the man August had revealed himself to be over these months. "You would do that?" Genevieve asked, touched by his willingness to address her concerns. "I would do far more to have a chance at a future with you," he replied simply. "But only if that's what you want as well." Genevieve took a moment to truly consider what she wanted. She had come west seeking independence, yes, but also connection, purpose, a place to belong. And standing here with August, she realized she had found all of those things, just not in the way she had expected. "I want to stay," she said finally, her voice steady despite the emotion behind the words. "Not as your employee, but as my own person. And I want to see where these feelings between us might lead." The smile that broke across August's face was like sunshine after rain. He stepped closer, taking her hands in his. "May I kiss you, Genevieve?" She nodded, her heart racing as he leaned down, his lips meeting hers in a gentle, questioning kiss. Genevieve responded with a certainty that surprised even herself, her hands moving to his shoulders as the kiss deepened. When they finally parted, both slightly breathless, August kept her close, his forehead resting against hers. "I never expected to find you," he murmured. "Certainly not collapsing in the town square." Genevieve laughed softly. "It wasn't my most dignified moment." "It brought you to me," he countered. "For that, I can only be grateful." The weeks that followed saw significant changes at Keller Ranch. True to his word, August helped Genevieve establish a proper schoolhouse in what had been an unused storage building. The ranch families contributed labor and materials, and by early September, a bright, welcoming classroom stood ready for the children. With her position now that of schoolmistress rather than employee, Genevieve found a new confidence in her relationship with August. They courted properly, with chaperoned outings to town and dinners with the ranch families. Yet their most cherished moments remained their private conversations on the porch as evening fell, in his study over tea, beside the creek where he had first declared his feelings. As autumn painted the landscape in golds and reds, August took Genevieve on a picnic to a high meadow overlooking the entire ranch. The day was perfect warm sunshine tempering the crispness in the air, the valley below them a patchwork of fields and buildings that represented so much hard work and care. "I brought you here for a reason," August said as they finished their meal. "I wanted you to see everything, the whole picture of what I've built." Genevieve looked out over the vista. "It's beautiful, August. You should be proud." "I am," he agreed, "but lately I've been thinking about what's missing." She turned to him, curious. "Missing?" "The ranch seems quite complete to me." August took her hand, his expression serious yet tender. "It's missing a true partner, someone to share not just the work but the vision, someone to build a future with." He reached into his pocket and withdrew a small velvet box. "I'm asking if you might want to be that partner, Genevieve." Genevieve's breath caught as he opened the box to reveal a delicate gold ring set with a small but perfect diamond. "I love you," August continued, his voice steady despite the vulnerability in his eyes. "I love your intelligence, your kindness, your determination. I love the way you've embraced this life that was never what you planned, and I would be honored if you would consider becoming my wife." Tears blurred Genevieve's vision as joy welled up within her. "Yes," she whispered, then more strongly, "Yes, August, I would be proud to be your wife." His smile was radiant as he slipped the ring onto her finger, then drew her into his arms for a kiss that promised a lifetime of partnership and love. They were married that December in the ranch's newly built schoolhouse, decorated festively for both Christmas and their wedding. The entire ranch community attended, along with friends from Promise Creek, all witnesses to the union of two people who had found each other in the most unexpected of circumstances. As they stood together greeting their guests after the ceremony, Genevieve caught August watching her with a tender smile. "What are you thinking?" she asked. "I'm thinking about that day in the market square," he replied, his hand warm around hers. "How close I came to not being there at that moment." Genevieve squeezed his hand. "But you were there, you lifted me up when I couldn't stand on my own." "And now?" he asked, his eyes twinkling. "Now we stand together," she answered simply, "supporting each other through whatever comes." As the years passed, Keller Ranch flourished under their joint stewardship. The school grew as more families settled in the area, eventually requiring additional teachers to assist Genevieve. August expanded the cattle operation while introducing innovative farming methods he and Genevieve researched together. Their family grew as well, with the arrival of 2 daughters and a son who filled their home with laughter and learning. The children grew up riding the range with their father and reading voraciously under their mother's guidance, embodying the best of both their parents. On their 10th anniversary, August took Genevieve back to the meadow where he had proposed. They sat together as the sun set, his arm around her shoulders, her head resting against him in the comfortable familiarity of long married love. "If you could change anything," August asked, "would you? Would you still have come west, knowing all the hardships?" Genevieve considered the question seriously, thinking of the hungry, desperate young woman who had collapsed in Promise Creek's market square a decade earlier. "Yes," she said finally. "Every step, every challenge led me here to you, to our children, to this life we've built together. I wouldn't change a moment of it." August pressed a kiss to her temple. "Nor would I, not a single moment since I looked down and saw you in my arms." As twilight deepened around them, they remained together, watching the first stars appear in the vast western sky, a sky that had once seemed so foreign to Genevieve, but now felt like home. The home she had found not in a place, but in the heart of the man beside her, the man who had once lifted her when she fell. and who continued to lift her every day with his love, his respect, and his partnership. In the years that followed, their story became something of a legend in Promise Creek, how a Boston schoolteacher had fainted from hunger in the market square, and how a rancher had lifted her into his arms, taken her home, and in doing so, had found the missing piece of his heart. A story not just of rescue, but of two people finding in each other exactly what they hadn't known they were searching for.